Joining me now, we have Arizona Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari. She is on the Oversight, Education, and Natural Resources Committees. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Congresswoman. You just heard DHS Secretary Noem there talking about expanding ICE operations. On Saturday, you visited the Eloy, I hope I said that right, the Eloy ICE Detention Center in southern Arizona for the second time. You spoke with some 24 or so detainees and described conditions there as horrific. What did you witness there, and how are detainees being treated, starting with them, as I understand from your reporting, getting rashes all over their bodies from heavily chlorinated water they are drinking?
I left Eloy Detention Center yesterday, again, heartbroken by the conditions that the detainees are experiencing every single day. This is nothing short of a prison with the complete lack of even basic needs for detainees. Like you mentioned, I spoke with more than 24 women. One woman in particular, she has leukemia. She's been there for 5 months. She's lost 55 pounds, and she has still not been able to see a specialist for the cancer that she is dying from. She has bruises all over her body. When I say that this woman was in complete agony, talking to me and saying the only thing she wants at this point is to see a doctor who can treat her, not even trying to amend her case at this point, I am not exaggerating. It was a very heartbreaking scene. I am going to be working very hard to demand that she sees a leukemia specialist or oncologist immediately and get the treatment that she needs. Then we actually had a sign-up sheet there. We had more than 98 people sign up to speak with us. We only got to speak with about 24 of the women. They all mentioned that they don't have access to clean water, that the faucets that they're able to drink water out of are chlorinated, that they're getting rashes all over their body. They also talked about getting used underwear as part of the clothing. And so many of them are getting UTIs and infections. And then when they go to see the medic within the facility, the detention center, they're being told to drink more water. And that is the solution to that. Many of the women were crying. They didn't want to let me or my team member leave without sharing every detail of what they're going through. And I just want to be clear, these women don't have any sort of criminal records. These are all people who come to this country trying to seek asylum as refugees. There were women there from Mexico, from Cuba, from Iran, from Kazakhstan, from Russia. They had letters prepared for me, and just their main message was this is a prison. We didn't commit any crimes. They've been there from some for a few months, some for over a year. And I think that the absolute bare minimum that companies like CoreCivic, who are making billions of dollars under the Trump regime, and ICE, who's also getting billions of dollars in the new Republican budget, we should be treating people in these detention centers with basic dignity and respect. And that's not happening at this point.
Hard to hear. There's a lot more to talk on that. We'll have you back to do that. Nonetheless, let's move to the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. A bipartisan group of House members is set to hold a press conference Wednesday. That's in Washington. It'll be with the Epstein sex abuse advisors, some of whom are speaking publicly for the first time. So the event intends to pressure Congress to pass the bipartisan Epstein Files Transparency Act, compelling the DOJ to release all documents in the files. Congressman Ro Khanna told Meet the Press earlier that he expects that bill to pass when Congress reconvenes. Take a listen to him.
I spoke to Congressman Massey. You had us both on a few weeks ago. We will have the petition live on September 2nd. We have all 212 Democrats committed to signing it. He has 12 Republicans. Only 6 of them have to sign it.
So we've heard him say earlier what we expect to hear will be explosive. You are a member of the Oversight Committee. What do you expect to hear?
The fact that we have victims who have never spoken up before, that feel so outraged and compelled by the way that the Trump administration has been handling and covering up this entire story, I think that in and of itself demonstrates the urgency and demonstrates that it is, in fact, going to be explosive. It's going to be a big week on the Epstein front. As you know, over the last couple of weeks, we received about 33,000 pages worth of documents that we ultimately found out only the 97% of them had already been in the public domain. The White House is continuing to try to cover this up, but they can only do so for so much longer when you have an American public that is, irregardless of political party, outraged at the cover-up, outraged at the fact that this administration is hell-bent on protecting abusers and pedophiles at whatever cost it might be, because they are concerned about what it might mean for their own supporters, for Trump's billionaire buddies, or even Donald Trump himself. So this is going to be a big week. The petition will be open on September 2nd, as Congressman Khanna mentioned. He's been working very hard, and it sounds like, they have bipartisan support, because the constituents of these Republican members of Congress are pissed off. They have been demanding accountability on this issue for years. And I don't think that Republican members of Congress for too much longer are going to be able to protect the president when they have their own constituents demanding answers. So we have petition opening on the 2nd, as the press conference on the 3rd, and then as well on Tuesday, some of the victims will be coming for a closed door meeting to speak with some of us as well. Members of Congress are meant to be there to speak with them.
Isn't there also the Oversight Committee having subpoenaed those former government officials to testify privately about their role in the Epstein investigation? We know former Attorneys General William Barr, Alberto Gonzales, Jeff Sessions, they have already been deposed. Have you learned anything that might suggest from those depositions, discussions, why the administration refuses to release the full scope of the Epstein files?
What I can say in full confidence is that in none of the depositions were any of these individuals able to clear the president of wrongdoing. And I think that really gets to the heart of the matter here, is that there is a cover-up underway, and there is a clear attempt by the administration to forego responsibility and evade the truth and prolong this as long as possible. I think the biggest proof point there is the fact that after being several days late on the deadline for the subpoena, they only presented us with 1% of documents that were new in this case. And that is why we aren't backing down. The House Oversight Committee and the entire Democratic caucus isn't backing down. And I really hope to see more and more Republicans over the coming days recognize that this is an issue of grave importance from the accountability perspective. And, I've said it over and over again, this is the most corrupt administration in American history. And they have an opportunity here to show the American people that they do believe in some form of transparency and that they do believe in the truth. And I hope that Republicans will continue to demand that from the president.
Well, political reports, we have FBI Director Kash Patel as well as Attorney General Pam Bondi, who will soon appear before the House Judiciary Committee to face some fierce questioning by Democrats and some Republicans over the DOJ's handling of the Epstein case. And you have former Florida U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, who agreed to an interview. That'll happen on September 19th. What answers do you want from Acosta, Bondi, Patel? What testimony are you most eager to hear?
I am most eager to hear how Pam Bondi in particular, I think the way she has handled this has been egregious, and she should step down simply for the reason of how poorly she has handled this entire situation. The fact that she stood in front of the American public several months ago and said, I have the Epstein files on my desk, I'm going to review them, and they're going to be public. She put people, young people out at the forefront in front of the White House with those binders saying, we have the files here and everything's going to be released. And then just a couple of months later, completely reversed course. She is equally as guilty, if not the most guilty in this entire administration of an egregious cover-up. I don't know on behalf of who, whether it's on behalf of Donald Trump. Of course, there were reports that she had told him that he was mentioned in the files. This has already been reported. And so I think that she will be facing some very serious questions about her flip-flopping on this issue and what the reason behind that is.
Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari, thank you so much for your time with us. We'll look forward to seeing you again.